Right, day 3 in China, Yunnan, riding out from Kunming, the capital city. That's it, Big Heath, day 3. We started in a little village by some rice terraces and headed north onto the main road so we could zip over to another spaghetti noodle windy windy road and ending at another village by some crazy rice terraces. After last night's relaxing bath, I was up nice and early to be prepared for the day. The weather was looking spectacular with views that would burst your eyeballs how beautiful they were. Views of cloud. I don't know what Ethan was up to with his weird lip smacking thing, but I was hoping he was still half alive in there. We set out for a little hike. With the views being what they were, we thought perhaps a little hike around the terraces might be an interesting distraction. We could set off later when the sun had got higher and burned off all this cloud. There was an interesting well, it's not really a well, it's more of a water filtration catchment thing there. It catches rainwater running off the mountain face and supplies the village with fresh, clean water, rather than digging down like you might with a well. Anyway, this was a lovely little mini adventure, and we did actually see some rice paddies. And this whole area is a World Heritage Site, and the main reason is the way that the people have forged a life which works in harmony with the river, the terraces, the forest and the mountain. So it's its own little water cycle. The water evaporates out of the valley from the river and the terraces, forms clouds, which usually rain straight back down on the mountains around, which feed the terraces, and so on and so forth. And then the people live from the rice and the other things they can grow in the terraces and keep fish in there and things like that, as we saw earlier. And so where we're walking around now, this is the daily workplace for most of these local people. Hani people is the minority that live here in this area, and they're noticeable by their coloured headgear, usually dark blue. And again, despite the lack of view, it was pretty nice to have a little walk around. We ended up in this village called Honghe village, and it was declared a World Cultural Heritage Site. It's near Honghe, the Red River. It's about 1,700 metres above sea level, and there's about 1,000 people that live there. But it's one of the best examples of how life can go hand in hand with nature, and people have lived the way they have here for a long time. Some of the details we enjoyed there. I preferred the motorbike, Ethan liked the chickens. And we were very puzzled by this array of empty arcade carcasses. And then the weirdest thing happened. The clouds went away, we sent the drone up and got some lovely footage of the water-filled terraces at sunset. And then the clouds closed back in again, and we were on our way. No one will notice, it's fine. Jar was busy trying to figure out our route for the rest of the trip. Given the weather, he was considering perhaps making some changes. And we got in a taxi and headed back to the village to prepare for the ride ahead. We got today's sticker on the helmet. Very Americo-centric theme. Samuel L. there keeping an eye on things. And even Jar got involved with a cheeky sticker on the back of his helmet as well. And something strange happened. As we accepted the weather and set off, I got a little fog of my own in my head, and I wasn't sure what had happened. I almost felt as if we'd never stopped anywhere and never been for a hike or a walk or anything, and that we'd just carried on from yesterday's ride into another cloud. There was, of course, the odd break, but as we were nursing our bikes and tiptoeing through these wet surfaces, it became clear the thing that was disturbing me. It was that the world and his dog had set out to try and kill us that day, with some very questionable overtaking manoeuvres. Here we are, look at this lad, trying to overtake into a gap that's just simply not there. Here he goes again. And you can hear about 4 horns because everyone knows it's a terrible idea, but he wasn't dissuaded. Here we go, this time he didn't bother pulling back in, he just squeezed Heath to the curb until he eventually made room for himself. But we did survive, and we made it down into the lower elevations of the valley, where the weather was better and we could stretch our legs at this petrol station. Riding back along the river was a lot of fun. Much preferred that to picking our way through the slippery slopes and clouds that had been higher up. And it's a pretty spectacular place to be riding. From here, the clouds weren't a hindrance, they were something that added character and depth to the scene. And once again, we got to the point where we felt like we were riding through, maybe not a postcard, but some sort of constructed scene designed to be emotive. And it allowed for that very specialised individual introspection that often comes from riding a bike for any length of time. Yeah, it was a lot of fun this day. No real chance to put the hammer down. That bike's just too powerful, and even down here where the road is dry, there's mud and dirt and construction debris, so you have to go a bit steady. My bike is a CF Moto 800 MT. It's a Chinese brand, and it carries the same engine as a KTM 790 Adventure. Around 90 horsepower, which is considerably more than my daily ride. I ride a Cove 525X. Ethan ahead of us there is currently on a Cove 500X, the predecessor to my bike. That's got about 50 horsepower. And then in front, our venerable leader Jar is on a similar bike, a 500X. A very capable mid-range ADV bike. And surprise, surprise, surprise! We ran straight into a bunch of cloud. We'd learnt our lesson from earlier and decided that we should help people overtake and maybe leave a bigger gap rather than sticking rigorously to whatever rules we felt should be getting followed. And we made it alive to our next hotel in another village overlooking some rice paddies. This was a more traditional place and quite an interesting building design where it was half open to the elements, and the room had that huge floor-to-ceiling window so that you could see those awe-inspiring, soul-stirring views of the rice terraces. And we had to make the necessary preparations for dinner. While we were having dinner, we noticed a table tennis table, so there was only one thing to be done. Get some painfully weak, not Budweiser honest beer down your neck and have a little tournament. First up, my good self versus Big Heath. We played for points, played for serve, I lost, so Ethan served. Obviously I smashed him. He did win the odd point, and it was a very serious affair with no mucking around whatsoever. Like I said, he won the odd point, but the old side spin serve caught him out, so he had to sit down, duck his head in shame and watch the next competition. My good self versus Jar. Now listen to him here. He employed an auditory distraction, which worked extremely well. It was pretty close most of the way through, and I even got a forehand topspin smashing. Look at that! Oh, I celebrated it. But on closer inspection, bit of controversy. It's actually gone under the net. But it didn't matter in the end because his crazy noises did me over, and he took the victory. And so there's only one thing for it. Jar versus Noodly Mouth Big Heath. A tense affair with less shouts of "we" and more shouts of other noises. And Ethan took the victory. I did ask him if he wanted another game, but he very diplomatically pointed out that we'd all won one game each, and that was a good junction to get off to bed. So we were done. See you on day 4. Ta-da!